The Vanderbeekers of 141st Street, Chapter 19, but let's talk about Chapter 18. Let's see. So, let's see. Remember, it's Christmas Eve, and Jesse and Isa are supposed to make Christmas Eve dinner, and they're still not talking. Isa's still mad. The parents took the other kids to the elementary school to wrap gifts from the toy drive. Remember we talked about how in New York the schools are named PS and then a number. So the one they were going to was PS 737. And then remember there's kitties outside in the backyard, and Hyacinth got a box and had some blankets and put one of the kitties in the box and took it to the third floor and left it in front of the Biederman's door after knocking. Chapter 19. The entire Vanderbeeker family was sprawled around the living room when Papa's cell phone rang. He answered it, and the kids abruptly quieted when they heard him say, "Hello, Mr. Biederman, how are you?" There was a pause, then, "Oh, really? The last 2 mornings? I had no idea." Papa cast a "you have a lot of explaining to do" look in the kids' direction, while Mama leaned in close to the phone. The Vanderbeeker kids gave each other uneasy glances before backing up in the direction of the stairs. "I'm very surprised," Papa continued, glaring at his kids. "That doesn't sound like them. You saw them out your window?" "I see. I will definitely talk with them. That is completely unacceptable, and I'm very sorry." Papa's glare at his retreating children intensified as he pointed one stern finger at them, then to a spot on the ground 1 foot away from him. "I'm very sorry, Mr. Biederman. The sudden move has been hard on them. I'm sure you can understand that." The kids arrived at the designated spot in front of Papa and stared at the ground. "Yes, of course. We will be out by December 31st, maybe earlier. Again, I'm sorry, Mr. Biederman. I hope you have a happy Papa stopped and looked down at the phone screen. "The man just hung up on me," Papa muttered. He set his phone on top of the side table and then turned slowly to face his kids. "Anything you want to tell me?" Papa asked, looking at each of his kids. No one said anything. "That was Mr. Biederman," Papa said. "He told me about a petition that you kids put together. He's very, very upset." Isa twisted her fingers together. Jesse looked straight ahead at the crack in the brownstone wall. Oliver's eyes darted to each of his siblings in panic. Hyacinth's eyes filled with tears as she reached down to stroke France's ears. Lainey was the only one looking up at Papa with glum brown eyes. "Mr. Biederman is furious, not only about the petition, but because someone, and from the way he described her, it sounded like it might be your friend Allegra, figured out his phone number and circulated it throughout the neighborhood." The twins grimaced while Papa continued. "People have been calling him all day demanding that he renew our lease. He had to disconnect his phone." Hyacinth held her breath, waiting for Papa to bring up the kitten, but he didn't. Oliver spoke up. "We thought it would encourage him to let us stay if he knew how many people loved us in the neighborhood," he explained. "I know you kids love the brownstone. Your mama and I love it too. But you cannot do things like this. It's hurtful to Mr. Biederman, and I expect you all to apologize. You will each write him a note and slide it under his door. Please do not disturb him any more." "The petition was my idea," Isa said, a flush covering her cheeks. "We didn't know Allegra would have people call him," she added quickly. "I just wanted to show the Biederman how important this place is to us. I can see how the petition was wrong. I'm sorry. I'm really, really sorry." Isa looked at her siblings. Hyacinth's face was pale. Lainey was openly crying. Jessie was yanking at a loose thread on her t-shirt, and Oliver was grinding the toe of his sneaker into the wooden floor. Isa took a deep breath. "We have something else to tell you," Isa said. Oliver looked at her in panic and shook his head briskly. Isa glanced away from him. "We did something else." Papa dropped his head as if he couldn't handle more bad news. Mama sighed and crossed her arms over her chest. "We sent away a man who came to look at our apartment," Isa said in a whisper. "I told him he was walking in the wrong direction," Oliver jumped in, "but I didn't feel good about it." There was a long pause while Papa and Mama communicated with their eyes. "This is a fine mess," Papa finally said. "Not only are you getting extra chores next week, but you will each write a letter of apology to Mr. Biederman, and you will also confess what you did with the prospective tenant in person." "But Papa," protested Jessie. No excuses," Mama said. "We're disappointed in you." "Okay, Papa," said Isa, her voice trembling. "I'll make sure we apologize right." She felt the weight of failure hang heavy on her, failing to convince the Biederman that they were worth keeping, failing to hold on to their home, failing her parents, failing. Papa finally broke the silence. "I know this has been hard on you kids," he said. "I wish I could have..." He paused and shook his head, and instead of finishing his sentence, he opened his arms and Isa fell into him, sobs pouring out of her. After a moment, the other kids and Mama gathered in, mourning all the things they could not hold on to. The Vanderbeeker kids headed upstairs to Isa and Jessie's bedroom, where the only sound was the rattle of the windows in their frames from the winter winds. Isa still refused to look or to speak to Jessie. Hyacinth helped Lainey write, "I'm sorry, love Lainey," before writing her own apology letter. Jessie watched Isa slip the CD she had made for the Biederman into an envelope. When everyone was done, they trudged upstairs. Hyacinth was relieved to see that the kitten and the box were gone. The Vanderbeeker kids took turns sliding their letters of apology under the door. Oliver pushed through Mr. Rochester's business card last. A sticky note was attached to the card with a hasty scribble on it that said, "He's the right guy for the brownstone." "Who's ready for Christmas?" Auntie Harrington and Uncle Arthur were waiting in the living room with huge smiles, tinsel draped around their necks, and Santa hats on their heads when the Vanderbeekers returned from their trip to the Biederman's apartment. Auntie Harrington had altered her hair again. This time it was dyed bright red and cut super short and spiky. Uncle Arthur had grown a grizzly beard and was wearing a plaid flannel work shirt with paint-spattered jeans. They were holding piles of presents, all wrapped decadently in striped paper and abundant ribbons. The kids tried their best to look happy. "I must admit," said Auntie Harrigan, as she pulled the kids in for a hug, "I'm not used to such glum reactions when you kids see me. Did I forget someone's birthday? Miss an important dance, concert, or basketball game?" The kids shook their heads. Then, one by one, they told her the story of the Biederman and the move. Auntie Harrigan, who had already heard about their impending move from Papa, sat herself down on the cardboard box full of packed books and listened to every word. After the kids finished, there was a prolonged period of silence while Auntie Harrigan chewed on her lip deep in thought. The kids watched her, hoping she might have the perfect solution for them. Finally, Auntie Harrigan sighed. "I'm sorry, kids. I wish I knew how to help you, but I'm very, very proud of you. I think those nice things you did for Mr. Biederman were meaningful to him, even if it doesn't seem like it." The kids nodded, unbelieving. Auntie Harrigan stood up and clapped her hands. "If it's going to be the last Christmas dinner here, we better make it really, really great. Your mom told me that you ladies," she smiled at the twins, "were cooking for us tonight. What a treat!" Oliver mimed gagging motions that everyone ignored. The twins went back to dinner preparations while Auntie Harrigan taught the other kids how to draw armadillos. France, excited about the visitors and the general chaotic state of the apartment, could not keep still. After he drooled on her drawing multiple times, Lainey took charge. "France, come," she said sternly, jabbing her finger at the floor next to her. France ignored her. He only answered to Hyacinth. Paganini, however, bolted from his shoebox and skidded to a stop at Lainey's feet. "Good boy," Lainey said to her bunny, thrilled. Auntie Harrigan's jaw dropped. "Does that bunny know commands?" Oliver scoffed. "That bunny? His brain is the size of an acorn." Lainey looked like she was either going to protest or burst into tears, but she was safe from both when Mama entered the living room with an announcement. "I just got off the phone with Miss Josie," Mama called out. "Change of plans. We are going to gather in their apartment for dinner. We thought it would be easier given..." She gestured around the mess of boxes stacked in unstable piles throughout their living room. Auntie Harrigan accompanied Mama to the second floor to help set up, while Papa and Uncle Arthur carried up a long folding table followed by a dozen folding chairs. Lainey put Paganini in his carrier, detained only briefly by Mama, who unsuccessfully tried to make a case that Paganini would be more comfortable at home. The twins went to their rooms to change clothes. When Uncle Arthur came down to retrieve more chairs, he caught Oliver examining the food. "What's the verdict?" he asked. Oliver knew Uncle Arthur was referring to Oliver's running tally of the twins' edible versus inedible meals. The twins were currently at a 43% success rate. "I'm scared to try it," Oliver replied, poking at a piece of blackened vegetable. "Come on, how bad could it be? When I was little, your grandma made us eat fried rabbit livers with pepper jelly. You kids have it easy. We got blackened vegetables on good days." Oliver dipped the ladle into the beef stew. "I won't tell Lainey and Hyacinth that you're a rabbit killer if you eat this bite of stew, and no spitting it out." He held the ladle up to his uncle. "Double dog dare?" "Ha!" Uncle Arthur scoffed. "Easiest dare ever." He took the ladle from Oliver and tipped it into his mouth. There was a pause as his mouth adjusted to the taste. Then he sprinted to the sink and spit it out. "Blech! Salty! Need water!" He gasped, gulped water directly from the faucet spout. When he recovered, he turned to Oliver. "You win." "At least the bread's from Castleman's," Oliver offered. "Bread and water for dinner," said Uncle Arthur. "How Dickinsonian. So much for their last Christmas Eve at the brownstone." Dun, dun, dun.